As India's daily COVID infection rate surges past 400,000, its healthcare system stands on the brink of total collapse.
The destruction of the infrastructure, the lack of oxygen, I mean, it's really much worse than we could have imagined.
And while Australia's joined the international aid effort,
the best thing we can do is get supplies into India.
We've also slammed the door on the 9,000 plus Aussies caught up in the nightmare. From tomorrow, returning citizens who try to circumvent the travel ban through a third country will cop up to 5 years jail, fines up to $66,000 or both.
We have taken drastic action to keep Australians safe.
The extraordinary measures have some questioning the value of an Australian passport.
Australia has obligations to our citizens, to people who are Australians. Not just to abandon them overseas, but then to threaten them is quite extraordinary action.
The Human Rights Commission's gone further, calling for the government to show the new laws aren't discriminatory.
I think that there's a serious question about its lawfulness under the Biosecurity Act. The government has to do more to justify how it's actually fitting within those legislative bounds, which on its face it does not appear to be doing.
The figures from India are similar to what they've been in the past from the UK and the US, but we haven't seen these sort of measures.
We haven't seen evidence as to why this is different, for instance, from the situation in Wuhan at the very beginning when the emergency was announced and special flights were arranged to assist Australians in an emergency.
But today the government line was simple.
It is entirely founded in the advice of the Chief Medical Officer. That's what invokes the operation of the Biosecurity Act. What is most important is that it is temporary.
Amar Singh is the founder of the charity Turbans for Australia. Amar, the government says that this is ultimately the Chief Medical Officer's call and that it's temporary. Can you accept these tough criminal sanctions on those grounds?
We've got to look at, are these people criminals to start off with, that they are being put in under special sanctions? They've gone outside Australia for very valid reasons. And as Australians, we have a moral duty to support them and bring them back.
But ultimately, these people did decide to go to India during this crisis. Do you see why the government is facing a really difficult decision here?
Look, these people didn't just run away from Australia or they didn't go to the Taj, just because they were missing the place. They went with valid reasons and with the approval of the Australian government. They had to get exemptions in place to fly for very valid reasons, such as funerals. And I don't think anybody that I've spoken to said they came to India apart from a funeral. It's a very, very tragic thing to have your parents pass away during this time and not being able to do the last rites for them or some of the customary things and thinking, what am I doing as a human being? I can't even give the last goodbye to the parents.
Amar, I think the government would argue that they're putting 9,000 people on hold for now for the greater health good for the moment of 25 million Australians here right now. How do you think that idea sits with the wider community?
Well, the community sentiment is around that these people are being, sort of the sacrificial lambs. If any of them show symptoms of COVID today, they're not going to get a bed. They're probably not going to find oxygen. We're going to have Australians die on the side of roads in India. Is that what we want? Is that where we stand? We're a country that prides ourselves in mateship and giving a hand up to people that need our hand. So right now, I think we're failing on the very basics of our society.
Amar, I know you're hearing from hundreds of people here and stuck there wanting to get people back to Australia. What are they actually hearing from the government at the moment? Are they getting much information, much help?
All the people that I've spoken to, they have not got any help or information from the government. So where is their duty of care? These people should be actually being spoken to and sought after, say, look, what are your concerns? How do you feel? Are you safe there? I don't hear any of that. And the reason these people came to Australia is because we know Australia is a fair country, a land of fair go. And right now, they're not getting that fair go. These are Australian citizens who are being sort of cut off the list, saying, sorry, you don't make it to the list. So it's just tragic.
Amar Singh, we appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thank you.
What strikes me is that throughout the course of this pandemic, Australians have responded really well to politicians at every level being pragmatic and practical. And I think that's why this decision to criminalise people trying to return stands out, because it doesn't seem or feel right. You know, these are our Australian, fellow Australian countrymen and women. And we can, when we need to, find ways of getting Australians in a tough spot back home. Now, it may not be on a commercial flight. It probably shouldn't be bouncing through China and Dubai to get back here. But we do have the capacity to put them in places like Howard Springs or on Christmas Island. We can do this. These are our fellow Australians, and it really, I think, stands out in contrast to everything else that's happened over the last 15 months as not the right thing.
Yep, hard to disagree.
With so much content online, it's sometimes hard to keep up with it all. And let's face it, who has the time? The Project YouTube has you covered with the stories that matter. Hit subscribe for a daily list of the news that you need to know.